More than 500 Maori chiefs signed the Treaty of Waitangi. Why? Before we can talk about the Treaty of Waitangi, we need to understand what was happening beforehand, to see why Maori would exchange the control of their country for British sovereignty. Maori had been trading with and visiting Australia since 1788. In 1805, New Zealand got its first missionaries who helped Maori learn about Christianity, European farming techniques, trades, and literacy. Before the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840, Maori had interacted with Europeans for over 50 years and had travelled the world. They were documenting their oral history and had an advanced understanding of English technologies, culture, politics, and they used it to their advantage. However, from 1810 to the 1830s, one of the detrimental technologies Maori adopted was the musket. When combined with their warring culture, it caused many intertribal wars and deaths. The Maori musket wars killed over 20,000 Maori. The only reason it stopped is because all the remaining Maori had attained muskets. At that time, New Zealand was a very unsafe place, and there were many no-go areas because tribes would think you were coming in to attack them, so they'd kill, enslave, or eat you first. The visitors to New Zealand had also become very unruly and unlawful because there was no law nor single ruling entity. However, this wasn't the only thing killing Maori. With the advent of whalers, traders, sailors, and settlers from all over the world, also came disease. Before the treaty, around 30% of Maori had died from war and disease and were continuing to die from disease at around 4,000 deaths a year. There was a strong possibility that Maori could become extinct if something wasn't done. To others, such as the French, the deaths and lawlessness were an opportunity. In 1831, Baron du Thurey wanted to declare French sovereignty over New Zealand. He'd purchased a large area of land at Hokianga, and it was rumoured he had summoned a French warship to enforce his sovereignty. Maori needed help to stop the new invaders, so 13 powerful northern chiefs sent a letter to the king in Britain asking him to become the protector of New Zealand. What the letter reveals is, 1. Maori trusted the British and their governance. They wrote, "It is only thy land which is liberal towards us," which showed respect for the British. 2. Maori were afraid of the French. "We have heard that the tribe of Marion, the French, is at hand, coming to take away our land." 3. Northern Maori were afraid that the southern tribes would come and slaughter them for utu, because the northern tribes had previously slaughtered the southern tribes. They wrote, "Therefore we pray thee to become our friend and the guardian of these islands, lest the teasing of other tribes should come near us, and lest strangers should come and take away our land." 4 years later, the 1835 Declaration of Independence was signed to try and negate French interest of sovereignty in New Zealand and establish central rule. However, it was abandoned without one meeting taking place due to the intertribal fighting and tension, therefore was never ratified. The Maori and the new settlers of New Zealand needed a treaty with Britain to bring about law and order. In 1840, over 500 chiefs agreed to cede their territories to Her Majesty the Queen, and New Zealand became British soil under British rule and British law with the signing of Te Tiriti of Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi. For 150 years, it was commonly accepted by Maori and Pākehā that Maori had ceded sovereignty to become one nation. However, in the 1980s, alternative interpretations of the meaning of the treaty made their way into schools, government, and even laws, yet their historical validity wasn't adequately challenged to show they are incorrect. The most controversial of these ideas is that Maori did not cede sovereignty. Let's examine their argument that kawanatanga doesn't mean sovereignty. In the first article of the treaty, radical Maori academics proposed Maori gave kawanatanga governance to the British and not rangatiratanga sovereignty. This is not true. The idea of sovereignty was discussed throughout the treaty meetings around New Zealand, is well documented, and was understood before the treaty was signed. In fact, there were many arguments about it. It's also very clear in the back translation of the Maori version of the treaty where it says, "The chiefs of the confederation and all the chiefs who have not joined that confederation give absolutely to the Queen of England forever the complete government over their land." There is no confusion in the statement, complete government. It means sovereignty. In the second article it says, Her Majesty guarantees to the chiefs full, exclusive and undisturbed possession of their lands and estates, forests, fisheries, and other properties which they may collectively or individually possess, which means they can keep their possessions, but doesn't say they can govern. And then in Article 3 it says, Her Majesty the Queen of England extends to the natives of New Zealand her royal protection and imparts to them all the rights and privileges of British subjects. Why would the Queen bestow British citizenship on Maori unless she was their sovereign? When one of the chiefs protested that the Queen would have sovereignty over him, Captain Hobson explained that the only way the British could govern New Zealand was by Maori ceding rights of sovereignty to the Queen. In his 1922 book, Sir Aparananata reiterates British sovereignty. The chiefs assembled, including chiefs not present at the assembly, hereby cede absolutely to the Queen of England forever the government of all their lands. Missionary William Colenso, who attended the treaty debate among the chiefs on February 5, 1840, and the signing of the treaty the next day, wrote an account of the events. He recorded statements by various chiefs, and these statements reveal that the chiefs understood the implications of ceding sovereignty. Later, in 1858, Honeheke's tribe, Ngāpuhi, re-erected the flagpole at Russell that he was famous for cutting down and said, "We have a queen, Queen Victoria, which is what we agreed to in the treaty." Later in 1860, Maori chiefs reaffirmed their understanding of the sovereignty of the Queen in a meeting with Governor Thomas Gore Browne at Auckland. Around 125 chiefs attended. Here's what some of them said. "We are all under the sovereignty of the Queen, but there have also been our authorities over us sanctioned by God and the Queen, namely our ministers. You over there, the Pākehās, are the only chiefs. Let there be one word for all this land. I know no sovereign but the Queen, and I never shall know any other. I am walking by the side of the Pākehā." As shown, 1. Māori needed a treaty with the British because the French were coming. 2. War and disease had decimated Māori, and they were in need of help from the British. 3. There were around 2,000 settlers in New Zealand, and the British needed sovereignty to bring about law and order. The Māori chiefs signed the treaty knowing that they were ceding sovereignty for the good of Māoridom and to join together with Pākehā as one nation. All New Zealanders should be proud of our treaty. That is the founding document of our liberal democracy. Throughout our history, Māori have stood beside our fellow New Zealanders, fighting back radical Māori that dispute the treaty's true intention for unity. And now we must do it again, because Māori radicals have infiltrated our schools and government with goals of co-governance and greed. Professor Elizabeth Rata of the University of Auckland calls these radicals the retribalists and notes, "Retribalists in the past 40 years have reinterpreted an interpretation of the treaty so it can be used as a mechanism to make claims for economic resources and political power."